Okay, Debbie, let's welcome you to the programme and move on to the MHRA.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you. My favourite topic, the MHRA, who, of course, we know are undergoing a transformation. But have we, the UK column viewers, are we transforming the MHRA? So let's see what the MHRA are all about, because they've just published their annual report and accounts. And you can see the normal stuff that we're used to: accelerating patient access to new medicines. Most of those are untested. The yellow card scheme, and we must ensure the safety of patients and the public. However, do you remember the March 2023 board meeting when our friend and warrior, Cheryl Granger, somehow made her way onto the board meeting? It was screened, and I was in attendance, and I recorded it, and we showed it on the column. I think it was pretty much the very next day. And since then, we haven't been allowed to record or take screenshots of MHRA board meetings. I wonder why. But let's remind ourselves of how Cheryl put Stephen Lightfoot, before he resigned, put him on the spot in front of June Rain.
So can I just check, Cheryl, that provides the information you asked?
Yes, there's just many concerns out there regarding the adverse event reports that we've had so far. So at the moment, there's about 1 in 426 doses that's bringing a serious adverse event. And I'm trying to find out more information about that, as to why that's not being investigated a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I think what we shouldn't start doing is actually using this as an opportunity to talk around all the specific details there. But again, just in response to that, Alison, is there anything else that you want to add there?
Just to reassure that every single serious adverse event to a vaccine is interrogated and considered and analysed extremely carefully. And I think that if anybody looks at the narrative report that we've been publishing over the last 2 years, you can see, I hope, the huge attention to detail and careful analysis of every single report that comes through. Is incredibly important that we reassure the public and maintain the trust of the public in our surveillance of these vaccines. And it has been a huge effort over the last 2 years to ensure that we do understand the safety profile of the vaccine and that the benefit risk of those vaccines remains positive.
Okay. Thank you for that, Alison, and thank you for your question this morning. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
So Cheryl slipped through the net there and put them both on the spot completely, and we don't believe Alison Cave. And that was March 2023, and in April it was announced that Stephen Lightfoot, the chair of that very same board meeting that you just saw, was going to resign. But it was also said that there would be a campaign for a new chair would start on April the 25th, the day after the announcement. But we are now 6 months down the line, and we still haven't had the reappointment of a chair. But Stephen Lightfoot is very busy, and you'll be reassured to know that a couple of days ago he was chairing the NHS Sussex annual general meeting. And just so that you don't need to take my word for it, I've also popped another little screenshot in, and you can see him there, bottom left in yellow. He's there chairing the meeting. So who's taken over the MHRA board meeting? And it seems to be Professor Graham Cooke, and he's been appointed as interim chair. Now, his particular responsibility is providing effective strategic leadership of the agency. But what else is Professor Graham Cooke involved in? And when we go to look at his conflicts of interest, and I've just done this screenshot so that you can see just a few of the conflicts of interests that Professor Graham Cooke has. You can see that we have Sanofi, Pfizer. He just announced he was on NervTag. He's Imperial College, and of course, the World Health Organization. And we know that the second biggest donor to the WHO is Bill and Melinda Gates. So you have to ask yourself, who is in charge of the MHRA? Now, Professor Cooke, he's got his conflicts of interest online. They haven't been updated to the NERV tag because he has just announced that he's NERV tag. But you can see there's some companies involved as well, 30 Technology Limited, DNA Nudge, and again, Sanofi and the WHO. But let's see Professor Graham Cooke's first board meeting. This only went up yesterday, so it's fresh. But I was very struck with his welcome because he wants to instill trust in the public. He wants to welcome us to his board meeting. So this was his first board meeting. Let's see if you feel welcomed after this message.
For the people who are online, remember that the board members cannot see the comments, and that this is only to be seen by our communications and events team to identify questions and share those with the board in the public Q&A, which will come at the end. So if you want to ask a question that is not related to today's board papers, please do not use the chat function and contact the Customer Experience Centre for those instead. Please similarly do not make any personal or abusive comments in the chat, as you will not get a response and you may be removed from the meeting. We do not tolerate any form of abuse or harassment towards our staff or our board members by individual members of the public.
Well, I didn't find that very welcoming, and it was the first time that message had ever been put out. But I've just done a couple of screenshots about some of the other members of the board meeting, and I'm not going to go through them in depth, just freeze the screen. But you can see that we've got AstraZeneca, Novartis, amongst many, many others. And the next screenshot as well, you'll see a few more conflicts of interest. But in particular, my radar is zooming in on Raj Long, who is effectively just an expert in pharmaceutical regulation, but seems to be driving pretty much all of the agenda and is also on the UK HSA board as well. And then I went to Companies House just to finish off this segment, and I noticed that Dame June Rain has also handed her resignation in. She was a director of Saffron Underwriting Limited, which are a non-life insurance business. So if anybody knows any more about that, we'd be grateful to hear more.
Okay, thank you, Debbie.